second military service award goes to Stanley G. Maniatos. Colonel Maniatos has recently retired as chairman and head of the Aviation Management Department at St. Francis College in New York City. He has been awarded over 31 awards and decorations, and I just learned that he was recently inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame at Columbia University. With that, please join me in congratulating.
So I'd like to present to you my military torn, Russian torn model. My pleasure. We appreciate you. Let me see if I can get this right. Vice President, Supreme Vice President of AHEPA, President of the Maids, President of the Sons, various governors, my own governor, Charlie Samuels, who recommended this. Of course, Congress put up. And guests and fellow AHEPA. I've been very fortunate in my career. Socrates once said the three greatest callings are religious, teaching, and the profession of arms. And I had the pleasure of serving in two of those. So I consider myself blessed by the Lord. But without getting into a lot of other things, I know you're interested in leaving and cutting this short. I just want to verify a couple of things that Frank mentioned. And Frank was there in real turbulent times when he referred to Athens during that critical time in Cyprus. I came after Frank, and I was in the embassy as opposed to he was working in the Greek Pentagon. Working in the embassy, I was able to see how our foreign service people, our military attaches, our CIA, and everybody else worked either together or on their separate tasks. One of the problems which occurred after the junta fell and Karamanlis government came in was the fact, and I can verify what he said, we came that close to war. Because a couple of the Greek Air Force officers that I went to Command and Staff College with, that I reunited once I went back to Athens, and I, like Frank, was not a volunteer for Athens. As soon as I came up on the colonel's list, I was the only colonel with flying experience, combat experience, who could speak Greek. Bam, right to Athens, no choice. But anyway, getting back to what Frank said, I can verify. The friends that I knew as captains when we went to Command and Staff College were now brigadiers and major generals in the Hellenic Air Force. They had all their people on runway alert. They had pilots in the cockpits at Tanagra and Larissa and Suda Bay, ready to go on probably one-way missions to Cyprus. And it's a good thing you got to that telephone and kept it from being picked up, because we'd have lost a lot of friends. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the aftermath of what happened, because that's when I was there. Karamanlis came back, and of course, all the Greeks felt that we were the instigators, that we wanted the Turks to move into Cyprus, and so forth. I think that was the farthest from the truth. But at any rate, that's what they believed, and that's what you had to put up with. No U.S. military aircraft were allowed to transit Greek airspace. That means that from Corfu, or Kerkina, the islands down to the Peloponnesus, Crete, always swing over to the eastern islands, just off the coast of Turkey. There are airways there, and anybody going to the Middle East has to transit them. And we were treated just like any other country. Prior to that, we had almost free access to Greek airspace and Greek air bases. After that, we had to file diplomatic clearances for every flight either coming into or transiting Greek airspace. Now think about that a while. If you're with just flying a general or an admiral to visit his counterpart in Athens, you would have to get a diplomatic clearance. Now what does that mean? You have to send a message to the embassy in Athens. The air attaché gets the message, calls up the Greek Pentagon, tells them what kind of airplane is coming in, where it's coming in, where it's landing, who's on board, and when is he leaving. That's for every flight into and out of Greece. Plus, flights that were going from, say, Rome or Naples, non-stop, overflying Greece, maybe going to Izmir, to the NATO headquarters, or maybe going to Adana, Incirlik, where we had a major U.S. Air Force base, or to the Middle East, or to Ben Gurion, or to Cyprus, which there was still a huge British base there at Akrotiri. Anyway, this was a monumental task. The airways between Athens and Istanbul were all closed. There was no traffic authorized through Greece into Turkey. It was barred. Nobody could go that way. If you wanted to go to Istanbul, you'd have to fly from Athens to Cairo or Athens to Nicosia, and then over, well, Nicosia was out of business. You'd have to go to Akrotiri, or maybe if you could get into Beirut, and then Beirut into Istanbul, or Cairo in Istanbul. It was a very tough time. One of the jobs I had was to negotiate with the Greeks, with the Hellenic Air Force, on a system which would allow us to use various codes when they filed a flight plan, which would tell them in advance the type of airplane and the type of mission we were on. And of course, this was a, you know, Greeks are tough to negotiate with. And it took time and effort. And of course, there's always a military, political military officer in the embassy assigned to the political section. Frank knows what these characters are like, that you have to deal with. And he's always sitting in on the negotiations. And they really, they're tough to get along with, and they're typical State Department people. Would you say, Frank? Toughest guys to get along with, and the basic thing is they don't really know what's going on. Anyway, we finally hammered out a negotiated technical agreement. I was very fortunate. Washington authorized me to sign it on behalf of the United States government. It was one of the highlights of my career. I signed a document for the United States government saying that we would comply with the rules that we agreed to. It was a wonderful experience. I don't want to give you too much longer. I could talk here for days. The only other thing I'd like to tell you is, and it's not true, there were various newspapers in Greece. And each newspaper was, you know, followed a political ties to AHEPA. My dad was an AHEPA at Hermes 186 in New York. If any of you have an experience when I was in college with the AHEPA. AHEPA used to have a national basketball tournament. We brought the trophy home back to 186. And that was my first association with AHEPA. It was nice. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying it now. Thanks to Charlie Salulis. I'm back with our new chapter, which is the Jim Schofield chapter, renamed in honor of former Supreme President. What are you hiding for? Stand up and take a bow. How many people have their name associated with the chapter?